I got word from home that a postcard arrived for my middle school reunion. It's been 15 years since we graduated. There are probably some who look back on our junior high days with nostalgia. I wonder what kind of man my first love has become. Is my close girlfriend from back then married? Still, the word reunion holds no allure for me. I attended public schools through elementary and middle school, but I wonder if there's anyone who, when reminiscing about our classmates, would remember me. I always spent my breaks reading alone. The person I got along with best at school was the librarian. I was the only one whose library card was worn thin from so much use. Thanks to a teacher's idea to award someone in the class once a year, I got the most books read in class award once. That was fine until elementary school. But once we entered middle school, the so-called party girls began to claim the top of the class's social hierarchy. And me, being at the opposite end of that spectrum, was barely hanging on at the bottom. Even among them, there was a girl, Maureen, who picked on me all the time.
Hey, I thought it was a joke when they said humans evolved from monkeys, but looking at Sizzy, I totally get it.
As Maureen passed by me reading during lunch break, the boys and girls in class turned their heads. Pointing at my arm in the summer, clad in a short-sleeved gym uniform, Maureen laughed.
Wow, the hairs on your arm are so long. Gross. You're a girl. If you don't get rid of that, everybody is going to avoid you.
I couldn't say anything back, and just pretended to continue reading my book while my face turned red. I've always had a lot of body hair. It didn't bother me until elementary school, but gradually people started to care about their appearance, and I began to hear about shaving and hair removal. I've asked my mother several times to let me do it, but she was adamant that there was no need for hair removal. I tried to shave in secret, but because I have sensitive skin, I ended up with razor burn, turned bright red, and ended up getting scolded when my mom found out I'd shaved. My nickname became Gorilla Sizzy when Maureen made fun of the hair on my arms. Even now, recalling the worst event that makes me feel awful was the bullying during pole class.
Ew, your back is so gross. Your hair is all swirly.
I instinctively covered my back with a bath towel and fled to the back of the class. But then the gym teacher who came in yelled at me, "What are you doing with a towel on? Are you planning to swim or not?" I was on the verge of tears. There were kids who looked at me with pity, but there was no one who dared to stand up to Maureen. They were probably afraid of becoming her next target.
You're going to the reunion, right?
I really don't want to go if I can help it.
But isn't it unavoidable this time?
That's the case. This time, not going isn't really an option. It's because my homeroom teacher, Mr. Smith, passed away. He was the only person who cared about me when I was in middle school. We had planned to meet at the teacher's house during our summer holiday, and from there, everyone would gather together. Even after graduating middle school, I still kept in touch with the teacher, and the teacher's wife remembered me and wanted to see me. So, I'm part of the group that's going to visit the teacher's house. Therefore, it would be hard to say I won't be attending the subsequent reunion. Until the day of the reunion, I was living in gloom. But I was indeed happy to see the teacher's wife, and hearing that the teacher had talked about me to her made me feel like my time as a student, which I thought was a dark past, was redeemed a bit. The reunion was to be held at a local restaurant run by a classmate who took over his father's business. When we left the teacher's house and stepped in the restaurant, many people had already gathered. I felt like I was immediately reverting back to my old self. My eyes were automatically searching for Maureen. Maureen was sitting at the top seat, dressed in clothes highly exposing her body. And she was waving big to the boy who had been class president, sitting next to me.
Over here, over here. Let's toast. Sit down quickly.
It seemed like she still thinks she's the one to control the class, making the members who came from the teacher's house sit at the table. In that case, I also had to sit at the table where Maureen was.
All right. Everyone got their beer glasses.
Maureen stood up with a glass of beer in her hand.
I am very happy to be able to gather with everyone from our class today. Nostalgia is a good feeling. It is unfortunate that our beloved teacher, Mr. Smith, has passed away, but I believe that the teacher has given us this opportunity to gather all together. Let us pray for the teacher's soul and express our gratitude for being able to meet again. Cheers.
Everyone followed Maureen and said cheers. After that, everyone was chatting while enjoying their meals and sharing their current situation. Next to me was Emma, one of the members who went to the teacher's house with me. Emma was a beautiful girl with fair skin, but she was quiet and I didn't talk much with her. I didn't really interact with you, Emma, when we were in middle school.
Yeah. When we become adults, we don't know why, but but being in middle school felt like being bound by invisible rules. It was hard.
Haha, I thought so too. I was so scared that I felt like I didn't even have the right to speak.
When I was told to speak, my chest would tighten and I didn't know when to breathe.
We laughed as we remembered how we used to rush back to our seats after speaking in a small voice in one breath during class presentations. That's right, we're no longer children in our teens. We are already in our 30s and are grown-ups. While talking to Emma about what happened from the time we graduated from middle school to now, I was enjoying the food being served. But there was someone standing behind us.
Oh my, is that you, Susie?
I could feel my heart, which had completely let its guard down, tighten up instantly. Long time no see, Maureen.
Oh wow, you can actually speak now. Back in middle school, you always hid behind your books, and even when I tried to talk to you, you would just ignore me.
At these words, several people laughed as if recalling the past. Alcohol affected everybody, of course. I knew they weren't laughing out of malicious intent, but it didn't make me feel any better. I didn't mean to ignore you, but I was really timid back then. So if I made you feel bad, Maureen, I'm sorry. At that, Emma gave me a look that said good for you for saying that, and she smiled at me. But it seemed to work, Maureen.
You've become so assertive, huh? What happened? Did you find some hotshot guy after leaving our hometown who gave you a sense of superiority?
The idea that a man was an element to elevate oneself surprised me. Not really.
Thought so. You still look like a spinster. Never had a boyfriend, have you? You don't even know the joy of being loved by a man. Po thing.
We had grown up. But it seemed Maureen hadn't. Her crude way of steering the conversation, which made the surrounding men start boasting about their past experiences, deeply disgusted me.
So Susie is still a worthless human being even after growing up.
I felt a mix of pity and frustration at Maureen, who was laughing uproariously with a beer in hand. Maureen, a person's value isn't determined by such things. Are you saying that sleeping with men increases your status? At my words, the smile disappeared from Maureen's face.
What's a woman who's never been touched by a man doing, giving us lectures?
The value of a woman isn't determined by men. We ourselves determine our value. A value that needs to be determined by others can collapse at any time. That's when it happened. Maureen poured the beer she was holding over my head.
Thank you for your precious words. Let me express my gratitude by pouring this beer over you, Susie. It's a beer tower, not a champagne tower.
The venue became silent at her behavior, and critical looks were directed at Maureen.
Hey, that's not cool.
Could someone get a towel, please?
Just then, I received a call on my cell phone, and I answered it with beer dripping from my head. Emma, who was next to me, was wiping the beer off my hair with a towel. Yes, emergency consultation request, understood. I'll be there immediately. The car is already in front of the restaurant. After I hung up the phone, I stood up without saying a word. Everyone, I'm sorry for the trouble. I just got an emergency work call, so I have to leave now.
But your clothes are soaked in beer.
Just then, my staff member, who had already arrived to pick me up, opened the restaurant door and appeared.
Dr. Johnson, I apologize for disturbing you during your fun time.
I handed out a business card to Emma and Maureen. I'm the director of my own mental clinic. If you ever have anything weighing on your mind, please feel free to consult me.
You're a doctor?
Of the mind, yes. I smiled at Emma, then turned back to Maureen, who was staring at the business card in surprise. I have a husband now. He's a doctor, too. But I don't consider that a victory. I believe my value lies in my ability to be told thank you by my patients and friends, and having the knowledge and a considerate heart to offer. Beyond the door that the staff member had opened for me, I could see my husband's car. As you might expect, the sight of it made the men's eyes light up, exclaiming, BMW.
He said he was coming to pick you up, so I went against Dr. Johnson's orders not to come in a flashy car.
My husband leaning out from the car window and waving at us. I turned back to face Maureen once more, placing a hand on her shoulder. Your worth isn't determined by a man. Even if you get divorced, it won't hurt you. Don't be swayed by the word divorcee.
I never said I was.
I pointed to the ring finger on my left hand. On Maureen's left ring finger was the white tan line of a ring she'd taken off. When you face a divorce, you'll say and hear cruel words you've never thought you'd hear hurled at you, and it hurts. But don't believe those malicious words and think you're worthless. The moment I said that, Maureen's face, which had been strong until now, crumpled, and she began to cry out. I hated the me who was still affected by the bullying I experienced as a child, and I wanted to learn how to heal people's hearts, so I became a psychiatrist. And as I learned about people's psychology, I realized that it's people who enjoy belittling people like Maureen who have scars on their hearts. Maureen, call me anytime. As I stood up to leave the restaurant, Maureen looked up at me with a face soaked with tears and snot.
Susie, I'm so sorry for everything. I really am sorry.
I nodded with a smile and left the restaurant. Later, it seemed Maureen was comforted by her classmates and somehow managed to get through the ordeal of the divorce. And later, I was visited for a consultation by a child who had lost his father and become neurotic. If you ask me if the reunion was fun, it was the worst. But I was able to break my past curse, and I was also able to break the curse Maureen was carrying. So it was a good reunion. I want to continue to be a person who helps those in distress.